Tucked away just east of Somerville is the town of Lincolnville. Not far from I-26, the 1.2 square mile enclave of single-family homes and trees and baseball fields is flanked by subdivisions and industry. It was founded in 1867 by 7 African-American men and named in honor of Abraham Lincoln following the emancipation of slaves just 4 years earlier. In just 1 week, Lincolnville will receive the recognition it deserves. Here to tell us more about it is Reverend Edward Johnson of New Vision Cathedral. Thank you for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure being here with you. Thanks for having us.
And congratulations, finally.
Yes, thank you so much.
So we'll get into sort of the timeline and why it's now that we're just seeing this recognition going up in Lincolnville. But I think in my own research, there was very little that I knew about it. When did you first discover Lincolnville?
Well, actually, I went to Lincolnville as a teenager. I was 15 years of age at the time, and it was just a little nightclub on the street, and I was a drummer for the band, and I got caught by the police and almost went to jail. But then fast forwarding to some years later, I left home and the military and came back home as a minister. My parents were both in church all my life. And I was sent there to pastor this little church back in 1981, and I was there ever since.
So you've been there for quite some time.
Yes.
And now your congregation, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the people who make up your congregation.
Well, we have a diverse group. We have, of course, it's predominantly African American, but we have blacks and whites and, you know, different groups of people there. And of course, we don't discriminate. We are a kingdom church. And when I say kingdom, that is inclusive of everybody under the sun. So you're welcome to come if you enjoy our music and our flavor. You can come and be a part of our congregation, yes. So it's New Vision Cathedral.
New Vision Cathedral.
Yeah.
Now, since 1981, you've certainly met a lot of people in your time at that church. A lot of the people who grew up in Lincolnville knew the days of segregation. They weren't that long ago when we think about it.
Yes.
Do you know if any of the people who are living there now are direct descendants of the 5 founding fathers?
Actually, there is not. Oh. However, since we started to pursue the marker, there's 3 of his great-granddaughters that are actually coming to be a part of the celebration. They saw the article in the newspaper. In fact, 2 of them lives in California, and they're going to be on program that day as well. Carrietta Grizel is her name, and she's also a pastor, part of the AME Church. Richard Harvey Kane, who was the founding pastor, was an AME as well. So she's going to be there. Several of her cousins coming, but no one that I know that lives in the town is direct descendants of.
That's interesting. It's, you know, through time, people move, they migrate now, and people more and more so are
Absolutely
changing where they grew up.
And the town, you know, being
settling.
as small as it is, without a lot of opportunities, a lot of people just wanted to go to high grounds and look for new places.
Sure.
So that's kind of typical of the South anyway. So
it's true. Well, it's very small, and I find the history of it absolutely fascinating. And perhaps you can walk us through the history. But for anyone who's not familiar with Lincolnville and its sheer size, it's 1.2 square miles, which is quite small.
Yes.
There's just a little more than 1,000 people living there right now.
Exactly.
But let's talk about the history. So when it was founded and who founded it?
Okay, well, let's go way back. Most people who study the history of Charleston have heard about the Denmark Vesey Uprising. Denmark was a member of the original church. It was called Hempstead AME, and it was said that he was plotting to capture the arsenal in Charleston and, you know, kill some people. So the plan got thwarted, and he was hung along with 34 other guys. And so the government closed the church down, Hempstead. It was closed down. In fact, no black congregation could meet in Charleston during that time. And this happened in 1822 when they got hung. Wow. From 1822 to 1865, they were all meeting underground. And then the AME Church sent Richard Harvey Kane to Charleston to resurrect the church. He came in started a new congregation, renamed it, and grew the church to over 3,000 members.
Oh, wow.
So it became a very powerful, powerful church. Harvey Kane was also a politician. He served 2 terms in the South Carolina Congress. Oh, wow. And so he was pursuing land grants for black families to make a new start for themselves. And so the story is told that they were on the South Carolina Railroad traveling, looking for some land, and they came across this place. It was called Pop Pond, where the train would stop and get water supply. And they purchased the land, and this was in 1867. And
this was 4 years after the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yes.
So it
yes.
took 4 years for them to get to that point.
Yes, and so what they did, once they founded it, even though it wasn't incorporated yet, they renamed it after President Lincoln, and it's kept this name for all these years.
All these years.
Yeah.
And so finally, it's getting some recognition, and we're going to be talking about that coming up after the break. We'll be right back.